Harlequin presents and HarlequinAudio present His Enemy's Italian Surrender by Sharon Kendrick. Performed by Sarah Kempton. With thanks to Hilary Hills Birch, violin virtuoso, and woman of encyclopedic knowledge, also to the masterly clarinetist Colinus Lawson. You have introduced me to so much beautiful music, for which I am forever grateful. Chapter 1. The storm roared, the rain lashed, and the inky dark sky seemed to reflect the current state of Romano Castelliari's mood, which was angry, to say the least. He had just returned from Turin, where he had been poised to sign the deal of a lifetime. The purchase of one of Italy's most iconic car factories, to add to his already impressive portfolio, had been a long-held dream, and for once he had allowed his stony heart to feel a flicker of anticipatory joy. And then, right at the last minute, the elderly owner had pulled out, citing a deep aversion to Romano's lifestyle as his reason. "I want to sell my company to a family man," he had rasped. "Not an international playboy." The old man had been adamant, stubbornly rejecting every inducement Romano had offered, leaving the Italian billionaire simmering with a quiet rage to make his way to where his private jet waited. He was still simmering now. "Porca miseria!" he raged, although there was nobody around to hear him. What right did Silvano di Saccucci have to refuse a deal on such flimsy grounds? What right did anyone have to stand in the way of his wishes, or to judge him like that? Irritably, he continued to pace the corridors of his Tuscan retreat, glaring as the rain lashed against the windows of the ancient castello, obscuring the mountains in the distance with a heavy grey curtain. He had never been a man who allowed himself to be governed by the elements and would walk or ride or hunt boar in almost any weathers. But this never-ending rain was yet one more intolerable fact to add to his growing list of inconveniences. And if the coming weekend had not been fixed in stone, he might have taken himself off to somewhere warm, maybe Brazil, to watch one of his cars competing in the Premio Mondo. He scowled. Certain social events were inevitable when you were custodian of a vast Italian estate like this, and, since he was rarely here, he always limited them to a few per year. This weekend was the baptism of his little half-sister's baby. Actually, Floriana was not so little anymore, he reminded himself, for she was a wife now and a mother. But he was not looking forward to it, because such occasions always prompted intrusive questions, the most intrusive being the supposedly innocent query about when he intended having children of his own. Innocent they most certainly were not, though he should have been used to fielding them by now. How many times had lovers looked deep into his eyes with what he always considered a rather bovine expression? It usually happened after a particularly satisfying bout of sex, when they suspected he might have let his guard down, because they were foolish enough not to realise that he never let his guard down. When would they ever learn? "You'd make such a good father, Romano," they would coo, as if the idea had only just occurred to them. This was a lie. He knew his limitations, the very same ones which had made Silvano withdraw his offer at the last minute. He had neither the desire nor the tolerance to settle down, despite the growing pressure to do so with every year which passed. A shudder of distaste whispered its way over his skin. Why create a situation which would inevitably draw his memory back to his own wretched childhood? And now he had opened a floodgate to the rogue thoughts which came tumbling in, because it had been a night like this, hadn't it? His body tensed. The night his mother had taken him away. He remembered rain lashing down on him as he had been carried outside in her arms, the howl of the wind as he had been bundled into the back of a waiting limousine. He recalled the pungent smell of some sickly sweet and cloying smoke, and then nothing, until he had awoken in an unfamiliar house with his mother kissing an unfamiliar man who was not his father.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?